Thousands of people at hundreds of tables from all corners of our region are making an impact.
On the Table Milwaukee is powerful because it brings people together.
We are breaking bread and connecting communities.
It brings diversity to the table of age, of color, of community.
There is a much greater awareness of needs in our community. Homelessness, transportation, childcare.
We're going to be successful by us working together and supporting each other.
People are collaborating, partnering.
I see people of really different thought.
And strengthening our community together. Something remarkable happens when you mix diversity and dialogue.
Anytime I would see people that were of different cultures.
We don't get to do that very often today, to come together with people whose backgrounds are not necessarily the same.
Acknowledging each other, seeing each other, and listening to each other's story.
I think that will help us build that resilience.
It starts around the table.
When personal stories are shared,
I didn't have a father in my life either, so.
Connections and commitment deepen.
I don't know one person who left today's On the Table not moved and deeply impacted by the conversations we had here today. Ideas were exchanged and tears were shed.
It motivates us to be present and to be a part of the solution.
Somebody actually said that they were being vulnerable, so it really is a safe space for people to bring their full self.
It is so gratifying to see so many people want to engage in moving our community forward. Since the first year the Greater Milwaukee Foundation introduced On the Table, we have moved from conversation to dialogue, to relationship building, to ideas, to action.
Spanning topics like advancing racial equity.
People want more transportation. They want more opportunity. They need funding.
Promoting entrepreneurship.
And I think that you have to do that through cross-cultural partnerships. You have to do that through cross-sector partnerships.
And criminal justice reform.
We know that people are really passionate for change, that transformational change is coming.
If On the Table continues to engage the community on this topic, you'll see stronger families, you'll see more men active in their families.
Standing up to bullies.
I think the youth have a voice and we're here to listen.
And harnessing faith to fight gun violence.
To be able to share my story is powerful because I can change the narrative for other women.
Sharing your story is healing, but we understand that we need to enact policy so that other people don't go through the same things.
Where collaboration today is generating solutions for tomorrow. Your voice matters at On the Table MKE.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the final session of On the Table Day 2. So in case you missed it, we've had 5 other sessions today, starting with a moment of mindfulness and meditation this morning, led by Piper Anderson. Our philanthropy conversation included none other than the amazing Thelma Sias, who shared an inspirational message with us about her philanthropic commitment and journey. We heard from young and seasoned leaders about intergenerational leadership and spoke with artists about the role that art plays in creating a more equitable community. And lastly, we just heard from representatives from the Medical College of Wisconsin and Metcalf Park Community Bridges on innovative strategies for true community transformation. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our speakers for our final conversation, Funding the Frontlines. Please welcome Camille Mays, Shaheen Saeed, and please welcome them to the stage right now.
There are a lot of issues that we're dealing with our community. It's it's up to us to come up with those solutions for our communities and drive the work, connect resources with the individuals and families. Sometimes we have to look within ourselves.
I was born to be an organizer. I grew up in Metcalf Park, so I'm organizing and building with people that have watched me grow up, people that I grew up with, people who have been like second mothers and aunties and uncles on the block. So I'm really, truly blessed to be working in where I come from.
A lot of times people ask, what can they do to better the community? You can support people doing the work, help them be able to do the work that they're doing and help make them more impactful. And instead of trying to create something, support what already exists.
You think you need help with mental health right now while all the kids is out of school?
Yes, definitely. I'm very stressed out.
And how many kids you got in the household?
7.
I know that it's difficult every day to make that complete shift. So if families had the tools they needed to continue this new way of life, I think it's vital for our communities, especially during this time.
We're giving out sidewalk chalk and beach balls and Uno cards. So it's going to be a fun package for the kids. Yeah, and for the whole family. And our goal is for it to enhance family time, because quarantining has been a struggle on families, and it's really put a strain on some relationships, and hopefully this can help lighten the mood. It's nice when we have support from public allies, from city leaders, from a project director like you who can move that work forward for us.
I think it strengthens the message too, right?
Yeah.
Like we were already trying to push certain things, but with all of us together, just like it strengthened numbers.
To raise awareness of mental health and connect our neighborhood with those resources would make a huge difference for us.
Thank you, Camille and Shaheen, for joining us today for this amazing conversation on funding the front lines. At this time, I just want to take a moment to give you both the opportunity to introduce yourself and the work that you do. And so, Camille, I'll start with you. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll pass it on to Shaheen.
Hi, my name, excuse me. My name is Camille Mays, and I am the founder of Peace Garden Project, MKE, and I never know how to sum up everything I do in one quick elevator spiel. But Peace Garden Project is something I started off with the heart to heal the community. I'm an empath, I say, and I started working with families of homicide with their healing after the loss of a loved one, with replacing the teddy bears and bottles with perennials and landscaping at the trees instead. And then I was doing that work for about 4 years up until the end of last year in November. And my son was murdered in November. And then I'm on the other side of my work now. So I'm walking in my work and my healing experience now, along with my families, in a different way.
Thank you. And Shaheen?
Hello, thank you so much for having me today. So a little bit about my background. I've been with an organization called Maru for about 10 years. And what we do is we work on projects to help just improve the state of our community. So we work with the homeless, with refugees, we have a support group for women. And I created a project called TOPS, Taking Our Place in Society, about 8 years ago. And we decided to put all of our efforts into that one project. And we ended up creating a youth center on Hampton in the Lincoln Park neighborhood for the youth, and just to kind of amplify what we were trying to connect the youth to in our programs. But I live in two different worlds where I work closely with the Lincoln Park community, but then also as a community organizer in the Muslim community, I hear their concerns as well. And that's how I got connected with this work.
Thank you. So we just saw the both of you in the video that was just played, and it showed how you both were involved in such a cool project over the summer. And so I want to give you both a minute just to talk about what that work involved, how you were able to get that done, and the partnerships that you guys were able to collaborate on.
Um, well, one of the issues that I have as a grassroots organizer, I mentioned that I started Peace Garden 5 years ago, but I've been doing the work for over a decade now. I've worked with some of the people I see here on the Zoom, but we really we do the work regardless, right? Whether we get paid or not as grassroots organizers or when your heart is in the community. And one of my biggest complaints was that the people who have the funding don't have the passion, and the people who have the passion don't have the funding to do the work. And so one of my main goals was trying to create partnerships and collaboration so that the people who don't have the resources could work with people who did. And what I would find a lot is that um, at organizations, a lot of time, the people who are the community engagement people, they really don't have the experience or the knowledge behind the job. And they're calling people like us to the table, and they're getting all of the information to do their high paying jobs, and we're still broke out in the community. And I have a big problem with that because I feel like I'm an expert, I'm a philanthropist, I'm a consultant, but I'm sitting at the table with people, and I'm seeing a lot of things implemented, but yet we're not being compensated or supported in the work on a consistent basis. It's like a pop in, show up, this is cute, we did our job, and then it's like a pop out. And so I want to stop that. That's part of what a lot of these systemic things are now, just not really getting to the root cause of the issues. And I want to really get down to the root cause of the issues and really work together and build community by building together. And this, we work with organizations, and I have been working with Katina, and I work with Darlene and Lamont, and just had a lot of conversations surrounding like how the work can really be implemented in the right way. Because sometimes organizations mean well and they had good intent, but the way that it flows out isn't really as helpful as it was meant to be. And so we wanted to really polish that process and try and see how it will work with me and Shaheen so that we can other organizers like on the ground can try the same process. So what we did, a lot of times we always do the work. We are the organizer, the planner, the coordinator, the director. We're doing everything all in one person that people have staff. And so what Katina and the Civic, the mental health response team helped me and Shaheen actually execute the work. They actually provided a project manager. So we partnered with Ubuntu. Shout out to Monique and her awesome team. And we worked with Mia, shout out to Mia, and Mia basically like orchestrated, facilitated everything with the public allies, and she did like a lot of the footwork to allow me and Shaheen to be really effective, really make sure we get it to the right people, make sure we were really impactful. And so we had the support with the whole staff and team. And so that was really impactful. We were able to get funds. We had wellness kits. We were able to get out, and then they took all of our input. So me and Mia and Shaheen got together. We got together with the public allies, but they really, really listened to what we were saying, and they didn't just do what they wanted to do. It was really like really organic and really thought out, and we were able to really get to the root issue, which was like really impacting people in the community. I decided not to do my wellness giveaway at the Sherman Phoenix, and instead we did it right here in the neighborhood, and it was much more impactful, and people who really needed those wellness kits got them. And so it was really, really instrumental having Katina and Monique and Mia and the whole team really collaborate and help us to build the team that we never have.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you also for mentioning those names as well, and the civic response team. For those who don't know, GMF organized and is helping lead a cross-sector coalition that strategically is giving resources out to the community. And so these civic response teams centered around food, housing and shelter, physical health, mental health, early childhood education, and K through 12 schools have really come together to start to have these conversations and dialogue about how to best deploy these resources into the community, especially around the pandemic. And so I'll also give you the chance, Shaheen, to answer that question as well, and what that opportunity meant for you, and sort of the benefits that came out of this cross sector and cross partner collaboration.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea of what the kind of like the work that looks like that a community organizer does, and we all operate differently within our communities, but we don't work 40 hours a week, 8 to 5. Like I feel like there are times when we're putting 80 hours a week, working at all odd hours of the night, because our communities depend on us when they can't find access to the resources that they need. We then become that access point. And just to give you an example, at the brink of the pandemic, when we were all kind of like trying to stock our pantries because we knew that we were going to be at home for a while, I was thinking about the families who couldn't afford to do that, right? I think we were spending a lot of money stocking on groceries for 2-3 weeks. And there were no resources at that time, right? Because it was so early on. And so what I did was, because I have people are familiar with my work, and people come to me when they're in need, I was able to raise $10,000 to create an emergency grocery relief kit. And I opened up to everyone in the city, and I disseminated that information. And I said, hey, if you're in need of groceries, you can go to these grocery stores and pick one up for free, no questions asked. That's just an example of the type of work we do, where we kind of fill in the gaps when people can't find the resources that they need. And then when I was connected to the mental health civic response team, firstly, when Katina told me we were going to get paid, I was shocked, because never, ever, ever has there ever been a time where I partnered with anyone or I did the work and I was actually compensated for it. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then slowly, as we progressed into actually implementing this wellness project that we were working on, I was just blown away that, like Camille said, that we had a project director who was doing the work. We had public allies, right? And set up, because we are usually the project director. We're doing the work that the public allies are doing, right? And we, as a community organizer, I felt so supported. Like it was mind blowing. And we were able to amplify our efforts. Like we were able to get things done fairly quickly, and we were being compensated. And so that gave us kind of like a peace of mind, where we actually get a moment to kind of take care of ourselves for a second, because here we are taking care of everyone else. And I feel like, and Katina, Martina, everyone in the mental health civic response team, they've played such a important role in connecting us with these resources, in hearing us out. I feel, I can't even express how supported I feel as a community organizer. When my communities, and I work in a lot of different communities, are in need, I feel like Katina and Martina and everyone, they provide this safe space for me to come and say, hey, these are our needs. You know, how can we connect them with the resources? How can we help them? And it's so nice to be able to go to them and get those answers, because if I'm not able to get the answers from them, I don't think, like, I mean, I network a lot, but honestly, I feel like this has really like sped up that process of just getting to the answer, getting to the resource, and then making that connection. Just to give you a quick idea of like what things are kind of looking like within our both worlds that I work in, Lincoln Park, Muslim community, like mental health has been, especially because of the impact of COVID-19 and racial inequity, it's really magnifying the problems that people are facing, right? So for example, people don't have jobs, right? People are trying to secure housing. People are trying to secure, there's food insecurity. So a lot of kids are at home and they're doing virtual learning, right? So now they're not getting breakfast and lunch that they typically get at school. So we have moms who are like, hey, how am I supposed to feed my families? And the nice thing as an organizer is I can then go to these committees and say, hey, these are the problems that we're facing, right? And their mental health are stemming from these problems, right? How can we connect them with resources? What is out there? And I mean, just to be connected to these powerhouses has been instrumental in just trying to alleviate just some of the stress and the trauma that people are facing. So it's been great to, like, if I could just say it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of what you're saying is really great to hear, especially from the foundation's perspective, because we're always looking for resources as well. And so we're happy to share that a couple months ago that we did receive the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation granted us $1 million towards our MKE response efforts. And so that is amazing because we get to continue doing more things like this. We continue to give back and expanding our reach. And so to date, that fund is about $4 million and we're continuing to grow it. And so that's just a testament to the work of my colleagues and just what is being done at the foundation right now to increase these resources. So what advice would either of you give to other funders in order to better that grantee and funder relationship?
I got like these key points that I can say like to do. I notice a lot of times like the first thing, like take the input and implement it. So like if an organization has a mission or a plan, that's fine. But when you bring people on the ground to the table, first compensate the people at the table. A lot of people are like really tired of coming to the table, including myself, especially after everything that I've lost at stake. For me personally, I feel like I've put a lot of time and energy, and I've even sacrificed family, you know, and I've lost my son and a lot of things because things aren't better in the city. And I think if a lot of us on the ground had the support for the programming and the initiatives, a lot of the violence prevention and things like that, then we would be further ahead in the city and we wouldn't even be where we're at. And so I blame a lot of the things that are wrong in the city is with things not being allocated in the right places. I think that it's a lot of people who are not true to what their organizational causes are, because it's a lot of organizations that should be out of business then, if that's the case. And so I'm not seeing, or I wasn't seeing prior to the pandemic, any collaborations as I thought I should see. I thought I should see more people working together. It seemed to be a lot of silo work. So if it's already someone out there doing what your mission is, try to align and support that mission and that cause or those individuals instead of creating something new. We say it over and over, but we still keep doing it. Just try to work together more. It's more impactful in numbers. It's more impactful when you pull the resources together. We've learned that with building the teams that we've built and finding people to align those missions. And then, so like for our team, it's me and Shaheen, but I support her efforts and she supports my efforts. And we work as a team. It's not just GMF is funding us and then we're going our separate ways. Like everything is built from building blocks to build a stronger team. And it's all about working together in alignment. And then another thing that's my pet peeve, meeting and no action. Just meeting and meeting and meeting, and a lot of information is pulled from us, and then we might see it being implemented where we weren't included in that process, or no real action ended up coming out of it. It's just a lot of research, and we never find out what happened out of that. And then it makes people have a lack of trust with the organizers when we're coming saying we're going to help, we're finally going to do these things, and then it's like the ball is dropped. And then finding ways to pay people on the ground. A lot of people don't have their organizations set up, and that's something that's very challenging. Just helping people with the administrative help or support they may need on the ground. The trainings, like GMF just recently put some of the people in the community through a grant training so that we have an understanding of the process as a grantee and as a grantor. And so we have a better understanding of things. And so I think more things like that to help people, because a lot of challenges are just things that people on the ground, they can't afford to pay people to do nonprofit paperwork and administrative fees and things all the time. Maybe if people within organizations can support people on the ground with administrative help, even, just helping them with the resources and the tools to start off, maybe being like a mentor in their first year of being a nonprofit, and then when compensation comes, instead of doing like grant requests to fund people, maybe put some of the people that are constantly at these tables on a contract as a consultant, and a lot of times organizers are waiting like months and months or weeks and weeks in between for approval processes, or they'll have a project approved up until a certain point. Well, I know I've been at the table with a lot of organizations for years consecutive. I probably could have been on a contract, and a lot of other people probably could have been too. So that's just something to get around the paperwork, to get around the organizational, the grants and the nonprofits not being set up, and just really looking at when you bring these people to the table and you want the information from them, what can you give to them for them to gain something and go ahead?
Oh, that's great. I think you brought up a few great points, and I'm seeing in the chat box right now, Danae Davis said that's an excellent idea to give organizers a mentor for their first year, and can we support and resource this idea? So thank you for that feedback. Shaheen, I want to ask you kind of in the same vein, but a little bit different. How can funders start to build more authentic trust and relationship building with grassroots organizations? We don't always want it to just be about the money and the resources. So how can we start to truly build those authentic relationships?
Well, I think what's really unique about this model and what's really effective is it's that there's funding in place, but it's utilized in a manner where our voices actually matter. Like when we come to the table, we actually feel supported. I mentioned earlier, like I feel comfortable that I can go to Martina, I can go to Katina, I can go to Frank or Ian and say, hey, these are my concerns, right? And they actually deliver. So when I first joined our team, I was still like learning the ropes. So I really felt like, okay, they're just going to tell me what to do and take back to my neighborhood. And that's what I'm going to do. But it was the other way around. And they said, hey, Shaheen, we really want to hear like what's happening on the ground. And I think that model is really unique because if you really think about it, and just to give you a little snapshot of how we work is Camille and I have a very large following in the community, right? People trust us. They will come to us before they go to other people, other organizations, other resources to empower us with number one, backing us up financially, right? Compensating us for our efforts, but then also empowering us and connecting us with the resources and a safe platform that we can come to and say, hey, you know what? This is what's happening on the ground. How can I make a difference? And for people like leaders in the community to actually act on it, that's what's going to make a difference. Because if some organization were to hire a team and then send them out to the neighborhoods, their work is not going to be as impactful as the work Camille and I are doing. So I do believe that we need to create more roles like this for community organizers so we can expand this effort because it's truly making a difference. Just to give you an example, one of the goals for the youth center was for us to have a counseling program. And because of billing and Medicaid and all this, like it never happened. And then I met Martina, and for the CEO of Mental Health America Wisconsin, who's been very, very supportive. And it took one meeting for me to say, hey, Martina, like these are the resources I would like to bring. And she made it happen. Like it just took one meeting. She trusted me. She trusted my work. And we have groups now for the youth. And I'm so happy to say that we have senior housing next door to the youth center. We started a mental health program for them. And they come on a weekly basis and they have lunch and they get to talk about their needs. And now they're talking about like their health needs, like blood pressure. And so we're able to grow this program into so much more. So yeah, just connecting us to leaders has been, it's really changed our work and it's really amplified our efforts.
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear. And I'm going through the chat and reading some of the conversation that's going on still. And so some folks want to know, with additional resources and support, how much more could you expand the work that you're already doing? What type of visioning and future do you see for both of your organizations with this additional resource and assistance?
Well, I was just thinking as we were talking, it's like so much I didn't touch on, but like, so it touches on that. We're only limited, right? We're only limited when it's one or two of us. It's two of us from our organization, and Shaheen probably has like maybe one other person or two here and there helping her too, but we don't really have a staff. And so when we partner with other organizations, it allows us to collaborate programming. So with the group that we brought to the table, now it's some things that I wanted to offer. I didn't have the capacity to offer, but with partners, we can offer these things. And then now we have a team and we can go back and forth. So this is how this works. I wanted to do breathing and meditation. We have Ambrose at our table and we want to do some webinars. We also have Erica and Martina at the table. Me and Shaheen now are going to do some breathing, yoga, singing bowl, and build the team and then offer that now. And we weren't able to do that before. And so we could expand the programming and the capacity and where we could offer, because now we could share spaces as well, where one of us may have only had one space. Now we could rotate the spaces and rotate the neighborhood green spaces, and we could really expand and have a bigger impact.
Thank you. And then Shaheen, I'll let you answer that, and then we'll actually head into our breakout discussions.
Okay, sorry, I got so lost in Camille's response. Do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, no. So in the conversation, it was being discussed in the chat, like how much more could you do with additional resources? Because you were talking about just what you've done so far, but just even thinking bigger and what could be, and what we're really trying to get to. Just talk about what that vision is for your organization.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we'd like to do is expand on the programming that we have in place right now. So just to give you an example, we have a partnership with Mental Health of America, Wisconsin. And when I say we, I'm talking about the Maruf Youth Center, because that's who I'm affiliated with. And when Camille brought up Ambrose, I was like, oh, Sky Schools. We have a partnership with Sky Schools, and Ambrose comes and he does an excellent job with the youth. And we invited him back to do some SEL learning activities. But the issue is we don't, as we're a small youth center, we don't have the funding for it, right? So I've been talking to Ambrose, and Ambrose has some really good ideas, and we're trying to get creative in how we connect the community to mental health resources, right? Like there is a stigma around mental health in the Brown and Black communities. And Camille and I have talked about this, is how can we get creative when we're connecting with them with these resources? How can we get creative when we're talking about mental health? How can we not make everyone sit in a circle and say, well, this is how I'm feeling, because people don't want to do that, right? And so Ambrose had this idea where he wants to work with the Black youth, like the teenage boys at the center. And I was like, oh, that's excellent, because they want to play basketball. And he's like, well, I don't coach basketball, but I can teach you how to run faster, right? I can teach you how to jump higher. And it's through those like creative activities that he can then instill like, well-being and connect them with that skill set that they need to help them understand their emotions and navigate some of those emotions. So I would really like to expand on the programming, and there are resources out there, but we need the funding. And that's just a small example for the youth, and for the elderly. There's just so much more that we want to do, because when we did kind of like our needs assessment with them, they have so many questions and they need to be connected to resources, healthcare resources. And right now, because of COVID and it's getting cold outside, right? It's hard for people to go out because they're scared, right? And so how can we bring those resources to the neighborhood, right? To the senior housing next door. And that's going to take creativity, that's going to take funding and more networking. So that is like my big vision for our youth center.
Thank you. And that is so exciting to hear. Like, it's hard to hold back my smiles, because I just love how people are starting to think really innovative about how to tackle some of these challenges that we have. And so that's a great segue actually into our breakout discussions. And I just want to ask everybody, as you're in these discussions, to think about new ideas that you could possibly apply for an Ideas to Action grant funding for. And so just continue to talk amongst yourselves. And we do have a link in the chat right now that will lead you to the form that we want you to fill out as you're going through the discussion. And then after we conclude the breakout discussion, then we will come back here, wrap it up, and we will close it out for today. Okay. So I'm going to assume that everybody is back in. I had a really great conversation in my session, so shout out to my breakout room. But at this time, I just want to close out by just giving a huge thank you to all of our speakers yesterday, all day today, and in this session specifically. Thank you, Camille and Shaheen, for sharing your experience with us, and just your gems that you've dropped on how we can better relationships among funders and grantees. And so I'm sure so many people found this very useful. Specifically, I just wanted to highlight something that someone shared about how trust was mentioned, and authentic trust building, and how that is really the true bridge and connector for what it takes to move us forward together. So at this time, definitely fill out the form if you haven't already. Please make sure that you do that individually as well, and submit that. That will give us information that we need to make better informed decisions. And with that, I am inviting you all to our last day tomorrow for our final day of On the Table, which is Milwaukee's Promise. So we'll be talking with James Kazi and Angela Peterson from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and they'll be sharing more about how we can start to envision a better Milwaukee for all. So with that, I will give you guys the rest of your evening. Have a great rest of the afternoon, and thank you.